Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about the role that data and artificial intelligence play in the retail sector. To what extent can AI give a boost to retailers? To discuss that, I'm joined by Richard Schwartz, Chief Executive Officer of Pensa Systems. Richard, hello to you. Good to have you with us today.
Good to be here.
So, AI very hot in business these days. I mean, as you survey the market for how data and AI is used in retail, what are a couple of key trends you see happening this year? What's moving things forward?
Well, AI is certainly front and center in a couple areas of retail. One of the ones that gets a lot of attention and is not our particular vantage point is the frictionless checkout. Meaning, is there some way to sort of have cameras and AI kind of watch people and watch what they grab and make it easier to eliminate how they pay for it and how they check out? And that involves areas of AI having to do with motion and muscle behavior and relating that to what they're grabbing and whether they grab it and leave or grab it and put back. And that is one area of AI. Another area where we play is actually training the computer via AI and computer vision to actually not stare at people, but stare at the shelf.
Oh, okay.
And automatically, visually learn and recognize the products that are on the shelf down to the individual item level, and to look repeatedly and figure out automatically the restocking patterns and the way in which the shelves are managed, and then use that to automatically increase the in-stock level and fix up some of the inventory accuracy problems for everybody.
So it doesn't necessarily track, hey, shelf number 2, which is right at eye level, gets 30% more engagement than shelf number 5 down at, foot level. It's not doing that necessarily.
Not necessarily, and that could be part of it, but it's more fundamentally, am I keeping the top moving products, the most popular products on the shelf? Do I need to order more? Is my inventory system reporting what I really have? Should I be changing in the wacky supply chain problem world what I have out there, or going to different sizes or shapes? Am I doing the right thing on the shelf with my balance of product in store? And there's no system of record for that today. No system of record for that.
Well, since you're using AI for that, does that mean that the algorithm and the model is changing over time? It's doing it somewhat differently over time, or not necessarily?
It's a good question. What we're doing is we're developing a direct way to rather continuously keep a view of what's on the shelf and what's available for sale, and track something that is relatively blind and inaccurate for the retailers, for the brands who are the suppliers, and for the delivery, the e-commerce folks. By having a very accurate continuous view, it smartens up the entire supply chain. All of the decisions that are being made today are being made on relatively inaccurate data with mistakes that compound. And by cleaning that up using AI and computer vision, it raises all boats, raises tide on all boats. And that's what we do.
Interesting. Okay. So you've talked about this a bit. I mean, what is a common problem that retailers face with using data and artificial intelligence, and any advice that you'd give them to help them?
Yeah, there are a couple maybe key things. One is garbage in, garbage out. Data is not valuable. Data can be destructive if it's wrong or not trustworthy. So the first thing to the retailer and the brands and everyone in the space is what can be done to create trustworthy, accurate output. So if you're driving change or different action, You want to get it right. Otherwise, no one will believe anything. That's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing is how much information, how much change needs to be in the system, how much jump-started data or accurate updating of data is required, again, for the output to be good. So not needing unrealistic inputs, and that's where a lot of the tech and the ML can come in, and having real trustworthy output. Again, all back to the data and the ML model. Those are both critical.
How does the data get to be more trustable? What do you do to make it more trustworthy?
Yeah, so there are a couple things there. One is the right deep learning, the right machine learning, and the data models present can ensure that there's enough accuracy in any takeaways. So, for example, the earlier attempts to take pictures or photos and understand it with technology, with computer, were highly inaccurate because they were trying to do snapshot matching. You know, you give me a set of pictures that are accurate for the products, and I'll take a photo and kind of try to figure out what it is. Wasn't very accurate. More recent advances, and certainly where we play, is actually automatically taking a few seconds of a quick wave, say of a phone or a Zebra device, and automatically seeing the same products on the shelf from many angles or perspectives. And you know, when you look one way or another at what you're looking at, you get a higher degree of accuracy. Those kinds of technology changes allow the system to be more confident at predicting what the takeaways are. And the more confident, the more trustworthy that becomes. And then people start using that as the source of truth and fixing other problems in other inventory or transaction systems, you know?
Interesting. Okay. Makes sense, actually. Let's drill down to what Pensa Systems is doing. What is the secret sauce in the Pensa Systems world in terms of using AI and data? What's the advantage?
You know, talking about what we were saying before about not needing unrealistic inputs and generating trustworthy sort of real business impact outputs, that is where we've used technology and AI. We've used the AI to not need any inputs. So literally the staring at a shelf or scanning it, it learns as it goes. Instead of needing unrealistic inputs, it learns from what it sees on the shelf and all the natural variations, products that are twisted or turned or pushed back. In situ, in place, it can learn from that instead of needing a jump start of input. And there's a lot of AI for that, and then a lot of AI for the realities of shelf stocking and, you know, the notion of products being depleted by grabbed and restocked by store associates. We've used AI to both recognize what's there and index that and reach conclusions knowing the rules automatically of what it means to be balance on hand and supply. And so our conclusions can use AI to be quite instructive in sort of what's wrong or what can be changed and translating that to dollars and cents. So there's AI on the capture side, there's AI to simplify the process, and there's AI to reach better and higher level conclusions. And all of that reduces the friction on what it means to bring in a new solution, right?
Okay. Someone said to me a couple weeks ago, and see what you say about this, that it's not always just the AI, it's actually the data set that's powering the AI. The algorithm is a certain amount of value, but really it's that storehouse of data that's giving you the real information. Does that make sense in your world in terms of what you do?
It makes perfect sense. Yes, there's a kernel of really, really smart AI in the center of something, but building out a large scale pipeline, large scale processing capability, the ability to do automated delivery, the ability to do audit and tuning and refinement is a very large data problem, which should grow and get better, instrumented to make sure that as it grows, it does get better. And all of that mixes and combines very large scale data and software engineering with machine learning, as well as understanding and bringing in rules and context. So it's a very large scale data problem at its most basic element.
Sure. I mean, we need oceans of data. Let's look at the future of artificial intelligence and data in retail. I mean, what are some big milestones you would expect in the years ahead?
So the trick, I think, is not to have to turn every store associate or every enterprise developer into themselves a machine learning expert, but to package up modules and outputs and knobs and levers to configure what goes in and what's expected for output. So to tame all of that, so that again, you don't get a burst of insight here and the wrong conclusion here, and somebody that got proud of a little bit of the beginning of something, and then they scale it and they realize that the answers are just wrong. Taming that, increasing the predictability.
When you say taming, you don't mean taming the user interface, you mean taming the overall process? What do you mean by taming?
Yeah, by taming, I mean the following. Making it simple enough to bring in, making sure that there's some auditability or ability to determine why you should trust a smart system conclusion. Those take artificial intelligence and they put it in a software engineering framework that can be used at scale without worrying about it. That's what I mean by taming. It's not only rocket science and right here and wrong here, but it can be put into large scale systems for data and transactions and know it's safe to do it.
Gotcha. So that is a major future development, that the processes will be effectively tamed?
Yeah, and I think there are techniques to allow more inspection of that, so validation of that. The AI systems are starting to get better at being able to explain why a certain conclusion was reached. So you don't need to just accept what it said, but in effect see why. And there are a number of technologies like that, and handle scale, by the way. Handle the actual scale of full rollout across an industry, across the products, whatever the field is, and not only handle a small incubation test case. And those things, I think, are all technologies that are blossoming. And I think will bring the AI into a more expected resiliency, consistency, and scalability that we expect of all the other systems that we run on as an industry.
That does sound like a vision of the future. Optimistic, but it seems like it may come true at some point.
I didn't say when, by the way. I didn't say
you didn't
when.
put a date on that. No, you did not. Richard, I think you said it. Super interesting stuff. It's going to be a great sector, an interesting sector to follow in the years ahead. Thank you so much for sharing your insight today.
All right, good to talk to you. Thank you very much.